Este evento today is the first one, the first annual poetry, se llama Versos y Charamuscas. And the reason why I decided to name it Versos y Charamuscas, a couple of years ago, really quick story, a couple of years ago, Jose Richard, aka Soy Nalgona, we were part of this queer panel, and we were discussing like, vos sos poeta, a mí también, yo soy poeta, blah, blah. And we were just bonding. And I said, dude, it would be so amazing if we can have a poetry event de puros salvadoreños y le llamamos charamuscas y algo más, right? And then Jose was like, yes, girl, let's do it. So 2 years, we're here, ya pasaron, and this event is coming to fruition. You know, and one of the beautiful things as that I tell everyone in all my events, and that I'm super proud of, is that as a queer woman Salvadoreña, I try my hardest to make sure that all events are inclusive, that it's a combination of already established artists or up and coming artists as well, and that there's also representation from different kind of fields, right? So if you're queer, non-binary, or straight, it doesn't matter. SWO is a home for everyone. So I just wanted to make sure to announce that and just share that here at SWO, everyone has a voice as Salvadoreños, right? Because we've gone in the past to other events. Well, I don't feel included. I don't feel represented. So here, everyone's represented. Um, so I just wanted to share that. That was my little like, moment to share a little bit about SWL. But we do have amazing talent today that we'll be sharing. And of course, it wouldn't be a Salvadorian poetry event without starting the event sharing one of the greatest poets of all time, aside from Roque Dalton, that everybody knows about, I'm assuming, right? There's also great poets that came out from El Salvador, like Prudencia Ayala, Claudia Lars, Salah Ruel, like so many others, right? So I want to start off the event with a beautiful poem by Roque Dalton. Gracias, Evelyn. Um, so this poem se llama Como Tú. And if you've heard it before, I mean, you know this poem is just like amazing and beautiful. So this poem se llama Como Tú by Roque Dalton. Yo, como tú, amo el amor, la vida, el dulce encanto de las cosas, el paisaje celeste de los días de enero. También mi sangre bulle y río por los ojos que han conocido el brote de las lágrimas. Creo que el mundo es bello, que la poesía es como el pan de todos y que mis venas no terminan en mí, sino en la sangre unánime de los que luchan por la vida, el amor, las cosas, el paisaje y el pan, la poesía de todos. And I think that's a very short and sweet poem, right? And I just thought I share that. And if you haven't heard of este poeta Roque Dalton, he's just incredible. He's just amazing. So we are going to get started. I can't wait to hear all of you, to be honest, because I feel like I've heard some of y'all, he visto los videos y todo, pero cada quien tiene su esencia tan linda, tan bella, esa magia that you all will be sharing. So here's a little bit on Adán Cabrera, and let me spotlight you really quick so you can take the stage, así como que si estamos en la plataforma, right? In an event. Aquí viene presentando a Adán Cabrera. He is a Salvadorian American writer and translator based in Barcelona, Spain. Among other publications, credits, Carlos' writing has appeared in Carve Magazine, The Acentos Review, Border Census, Spanglish Voces, and others. His debut book of short stories, Books Can Only Take You So Far, explores the complex intersections of race, class, and sexuality, and the way these have shaped his writing and worldview. For more information, you could definitely hit up Adán Cabrera on Instagram and the rest of the social media channels. His website is cadancabrera.net. So take it away, Adán.
Thank you so much, querida Cipota Cynthia and Salvi Solange, for this wonderful honor, really, to read among such talented poets y poetas. I'm such a fan of really everyone that's on the list. I also want to thank you personally, Cynthia, and also the organization for inspiring, our gente to really support and explore the arts and all the Salvadoreños and Salvadoreñas out there, to use their creativity to express the complexity and the bittersweetness that you were mentioning, no, of identity. Today I'm going to be reading 3 short poems for you, which explore the different parts of my own identity. The first one explores my identity as a person of size. The second explores my queerness. And the last one is a type of poem or prayer that expresses the complexities and, frankly, the dangers of being a person of color in the United States. So the first poem I have for you today is called Ode to My Fat Self. I'm a fiction writer by training, and my poetry tends to be more narrative in style. And this poem is actually based on a true story. Some hijo puta, as I call him, last summer, I was at a park with my husband at a park that overlooks Barcelona. I've been here for 10 years, and we know all the spots we need to go. And long story short, we're there hanging out, and this tourist comes, and he keeps staring at me, and he's like making fun of me. You know what I mean? And so I tell the story a little bit about what happened that day, and more importantly, how I felt and what I made of this particular moment in my life. But more importantly, I really wanted to send the message that all the gorditos and gorditas out there, we're all deserving of healthy, long-lasting love in whatever shape we want to choose. So I hope you enjoy it. The first one's called Ode to My Fat Self. He taps his lover's bare shoulder, snorts, points to the lonely bench where I'm reading under the embers of the evening sun. In the thin air, his waxen hands trace an inflated double chin, 2 upturned bouncing palms, a belly imagined. 3 words, Buddha, gut, luck, hang in the twilight-colored breeze, and in case I didn't get it, his green eyes dare to stare me back. This alien city spreads out before us. Shards of stained glass and unstained steel glisten on their way to the violent sea. I'm an ocean and a continent away from my first home, from my other forgotten self, pushed past the event horizon of oblivion. And yet, I'm back in the 3rd grade, Eddie Luo rattling my temples with 2 fists in the cafeteria, twisting my nipples with the same shape and force as hatred, tilling my skin with laughter and lilac, too shameful to explain or expose to mama. Or swimming in a black cotton t-shirt, my teenage body hidden from the sun and their smiles so serrated with scorn, when every Wednesday the teacher assigns me a team because she knows that being chosen last is the same as not being chosen at all. Or every time I said, no gracias, I'm full, because no one will ever love you that way, they said. No one loves a fat guy. So because I wanted a man to love me, I fasted in sacrifice. I want to tell this white man whose ancestors wandered wherever they please, perhaps here in Barcelona or San Salvador or plague-ridden London, explored even the moon itself, so pale, so smug in the half-lit sky. This person who now feels free to deride my body, deform it with airy gestures into what he deems to be my shameless obesity. Question, perhaps, the breath that fills my lungs, the worth of the iron that turns in my blood. I want to tell him and his boyfriend or sometime lover or whatever, while I smolder him with my gaze, that they're a long way from Kansas, and that a panza like mine only swells large and proud when you share pupusas or pizza or minty, murky mojitos, or split an encouraging word or the weight of loss with those you love. That this mounded chest brings wordless pleasure, toes and willpower curl, defleeted in its flame, and that all of me barely fits into the clothes I chose because you basic bony bro, loving yourself ain't easy to contain when it bursts at the seams. But don't waste words, Abuelita would say. A burro will never speak Spanish, no matter how loud you scream at it. So please, I say to him, rub my belly for luck. You'll need it to survive after I kick your pasty ass down this fat brown hill. That's ode, thank you. That's ode to my fat body. And like I said, it felt really good writing that poem, I have to admit, you know. The second poem I wrote is it was published for 433. It was on the occasion of Pride last year. And like many queer folks, my coming out story is really complicated because I dealt with the intersections of identity in terms of body image, culture, race, etc. And for example, I came out to my father and he took it really badly. And we're on good terms now. And then I had to also navigate the queer male world in Los Angeles, which was really, white and thin, etc. And so I wrote this poem to also commemorate my experiences. It's called Four Glimpses. He pins you against the stucco wall. He stutters with a hate so deep your insides quiver. He is unfamiliar, charred in fury. The boil of pinto beans hangs heavy in the air, stirred only by the dusty whirl of the ceiling fan. The house holds its breath. Telemundo drowns out the shouting and your mother's rain of fists on his tense back. He strikes you with an open palm because you have defiled the name you share. He reads your future in the cracks your shoulders made in the wall. 3 letters written in bile. Your father again curses the marrow of your bones, your still tender soul. You're 17 and afraid like when the earth shakes because it is too indifferent to your prayers. But what he doesn't yet know, years before you'll forgive him, when he said, I can't even look at you, what he really meant was, I can't bear to see the truth. 10 days after you meet, you will come to love him because he uses words like succulent and cosmic to describe what you had always called flabby and stout. He mispronounces your name, tripping over it each time, but you didn't mind training his tongue. You've got nothing but a freshly minted degree and a whole lot of reluctance that he chips away at bit by bit. Starting with that first bump, you'll snort and sweat together, and you're afraid because for the first time in your life, you will feel young. So you give him more of your body and sign over some of your dreams. He will love your every curve and even the gentle bulge of your stomach they used to tease you about, and you do not care when he lies to you at other times. From those full lips, they fall so innocently. The sunrise fizzles in his veins, and he will say to you, you are the pulse of the universe, and you make flowers unfurl, and you will respond nothing because you are afraid he will take it back if it looks like you believe him. He will leave anyway. A fire only lasts so long. That was the second one. And the last one, I wrote recently, thank you. I wrote recently because of the pandemic. Like many folks, I suffered a lot from, the anxiety. I worried a lot about my puppies back home, because of my family back in LA. My mother works at a Walmart, for example. My father drives buses. My sister has 3 small kids. My brother was considered a person at higher risk of complications. So, I was here, una bola de stress, like, just trying to worry about my family back home. I talked to a lot of my friends and peers back home, a lot of whom are white, and a lot of whose family members could work from home and didn't have to be exposed as much to the virus. And so I wrote this poem slash prayer really to ask the universe to protect my family. But I also wanted to express the uneven way that, especially our gente is experiencing this awful pandemic. And so the last poem I'm going to read for you tonight is called Working Class Prayer. And it's exactly that. It's un rezo for the working class and really for all of our essential workers and for all the people that have been forgotten during this COVID-19 pandemic, all right? And it's called, like I said, a working class prayer. For my father, who wakes up in the dark and through storm or errant sickness must ferry strangers to whomever may be waiting for them on the other side. For my mother, who must don vest and name tag to serve hungry crowds that bite with uncovered maws. Steal their uncured faults, enclose them within your walls. Plant in their garden flowers of joy instead of ashen woe. For my grandmother, who crossed deserts with naked feet and once challenged the moon to a shouting match. For my abuelo, who crouched in his dark hut and whose tired fingers turned leather into what gringos called souvenirs, but to us were simply gifts. Allow gray fingers to remain remembered forever. Let them unburdened find their way back to you. For my sister, mother of 3 and teacher of all things pure as well as practical, our alchemist Manqué, whose fistful of cash becomes food for a week even if she must sometimes go hungry. For my brother, who's lost faith along with his job, and whose stony dread sleeps cold and permanent in the pit of his being. May they drink deeply from hope and nourish their every hunger. Grant them a too safe passage and etch into their heart your wisdom. For my brown nephews, children of mine in all but name, who shelter in place against a predator unseen, outside the young sun beckons while their feverish father scrubs toilets and wipes sullied windows. Give them a world, please, washed clean, and protect them from invisibility. For to die, one must first be unseen. Muchas gracias.
That was beautiful. That was, you know, I every time that I hear um, poems or poets that share about their grandmothers, it always takes me home. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels this, but las matriarcas de nuestra familia, las abuelitas, right? Las bisabuelas, and it just goes, right, into this whole lineage. And it just connects with me so beautifully, especially because I don't have any more grandparents. So cuando escucho el honor que se le da a las abuelitas, it's just beautiful. Your entire writing is just like amazing. It touches me. I know I'm not the only one. I know the chat group is, you know, sharing how beautiful it is. And please make sure that you do follow Adán like the rest of the poets. And you know, thank you so much for your words. I did say, you know, people will be tuning in and watching this, and you will be inspired. Y si quieren llorar, pues lloren, porque aquí nadie los está viendo. You're, you know, the cover of your home. I mean, you know, nos pueden ver a nosotros que lloramos, we're all like, you know, but, and it's okay to feel this. And this is the reason why poetry is so beautiful. And so, you know, es una clase de calidad de trabajo que se hace también. La escritura es muy bella. La melodía de la poesía, right? So thank you so much, Adán, for sharing. I mean, I can't wait to continue hearing more about your next book. You know, I'm sure you're working on other books and stuff like that. So I'm
Always.
super, always, right? Hay que seguir trabajando. So, entonces vamos a seguir con la siguiente charamusca. I'm going to start calling all of y'all charamuscas. Vamos a seguir con la siguiente charamusca, right? And again, if you're just joining and tuning in, you're like, why is this event called charamuscas? First of all, because charamuscas are just like a staple in our country. Y si son centroamericanos, even more, right? You already know what a charamuscas is. And if you are a bicultural kid, que sos mexicana y sos salvadoreño, sos de alguno, you also know what charamuscas are. So charamuscas are just a staple in Latinx communities, right? And that's the beauty of being a charamusca, because you could be a little bit bitter, como el tamarindo, right? But also sweet. And I think poetry is like that. It's a little combination of both. And here we are sharing stories and poems about our life experiences in the hopes of inspiring the rest. So I am going to introduce the next charamusca. Astrid, are you ready? And then you do, oh, hold on. Yes, so we can see you. Okay. And then let me see. I'm trying to spotlight you for everyone, girl. Like, take the stage. Mira, bien chula te ves. So a little bit about Astrid antes que empecé, right? Astrid, a little bit on her. She is a Salvadorian American poet and journalist based in LA. She earned a bachelor's from Cal State Dominguez Hills. And while she was there, she was the captain of the slam poetry team and president of the poetry club, Flow. Astrid has since become a beacon in LA's writing community, shining through her with her annual showcase, Talk That Shit, while having highly esteemed feature performances at Take the Mic, Unplugged LA, Sela Arts Festival, and others. She currently lives in Long Beach and continues to share her editorial voice at LA Taco, which is an independent press covering the native LA community, and more. So everyone, please make sure to follow Poeta Astrid. Sorry, you know, it's my lengua salvadoreña here with my accent. And follow her also and check her website, poetaastrid.com. So take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here today and for putting this together. Adán, you were amazing. I loved your poetry, so thank you for that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start you guys off with a poem titled 1111. Today I choose myself. I will be a healed woman who smiles in the mirror as a reminder. My hips will dance to a rhythm of hope. Trust my body is safe. Believe it is beautiful, like a dove released from its cage. I will climb out of bed on the mornings I am crumbling. Thank myself for a new day. Celebrate the 3 steps forward after 2 steps back, because there is always 1 step still worth appreciating. There is a magenta sunset waiting, and this is a sign to see it. Progress is laughter after an insult, a deep breath before a meltdown, the fight during a flight response. I'm a shooting star fluorescent in the sky, and when I crash, I will land on Venus, rising beyond Aphrodite dreams, the indigo child rebirthed from the sea, flying on the back of a swan's wings. I will close my eyes, feel my hair blowing in the wind, cry rivers to cleanse my spirit. The rose within me will rise from ashes to ashes, dust to dust, through the soil in my skin for earth to see. The oracle in my sun, the gaze in my moon. From this day forward, I promise to have and hold myself whole. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So before I move on to the next poem, I'm just gonna go ahead and give myself a shameless plug. I did release my first poetry book in November titled Through the Soil in My Skin. So I'm gonna be sharing with you guys just a few of my favorite poems from the book. And basically the book just kind of walks you through my journey in relationships, from my first love to then the end of that love, and then just me learning how to date and navigating the rules and the unspoken rules of dating, and then just kind of coming to this place where I develop a sense of awareness, because I start to find myself in a karmic cycle. And so for those that are not familiar with what that means, I was dating different people, but repeating the same circumstances. And so it was really hard for me to understand why this was happening and why it continued to happen, as hard as I would try to break it. And so you kind of see me go through this realization that the reason why I was seeking so many people was because I was trying to fill a void from my biological father, who was not present in my life. And so once I make that connection, I start to try to heal myself and I guess close up that chapter in my life so I can move on to something bigger and better for myself. But as some of you might know, healing is not the most linear process. And so there's been a lot of highs and lows before I've been able to come to a good place, which is where I'm at now. And so I really wanted to share what that process looked like for me. And I wrote this poem titled Yearn for Love. 1. Every man I tried to love was a dream state, appearing as the soulmate I prayed for. I know it's all part of his script, yet here I am, mirroring his hurt, running and chasing until we crash our bodies into the iceberg of our differences. We break apart, sinking our potential, and I tell myself, I knew this would happen. He then freezes in my memory, forcing me to let go, fading into oblivion. 2. I am dreaming of a man who does not see me. He only thinks of me when he needs my ear, my mouth, my hand. I give him body parts, hoping for his heart to cup safely like a bird with a broken wing. I give and give and give and give until I am a rag doll, left to stitch myself back together. 3. I don't know real love, how it is painted on canvas, splattered into a mess we call bold, brilliant. God, I am begging. Save me. Give me what I'm searching for. I am tired of running into different parts of my body. It has run out of space. Cries through the ache, says, I know I deserve better. Give me the strength to believe love exists. I'm willing. Please, I can't take this anymore. I'm ready to let the universe catch me. Trust fall in a puddle of pink clouds. No more pain. No more trauma. I'll watch it vanish in the same way men become ghosts. Let it all go like the first time I ran across a tall field, flew a paper kite above park trees, watched the past crumble in my palms, clench it in a tight fist. Leave it up to me. It's in my hands now. 4. I see the parts of me that still linger, how they slow me down, how my mind has welcomed them. We don't always break patterns just because we want to. They become habits gifted in their return. My body doesn't even trust me anymore. It is afraid, wanting to protect me in ways I've failed before. I hope my body knows I'm sorry. I've been longing its forgiveness, praying for its peace, conjuring my inner child spirit we both buried long ago. I love my body. At the very least, I hope it knows this, if nothing else. And that's that. So thank you all. I see you guys in the comments. I appreciate you all so much. I'm so grateful for Cynthia and for spaces like these, just because I love being Salvadorian and I love connecting with other Salvadorians. So I'm just always so grateful to see so much of our diaspora doing so many beautiful things in our community and just being amazing and hardworking as a lot of us are. And I just want to thank all of you for being here today. So before I close you guys out, I'm gonna read one more poem. And this poem is an ode that I wrote to myself. So as I mentioned, my book goes into my experience with relationships. And so at the very end, you see me develop a relationship with myself. And so before I ended the book, I knew I wanted to end with something that was true and empowering to anybody that's going through it right now in their own healing journey. And my editor pointed out to me that I had wrote so many love poems for other people, but I never wrote a love poem to myself. And I thought that was the most powerful thing that I don't know why I had ever overlooked, because it's important, right, that we give that love back to ourselves that sometimes we so freely give to others. And it's very easy to forget to do that. So this poem is titled Ode to Astrid. I want to write a poem for the women who smoke blunts in their Honda coupe, gift themselves another hit for surviving a 9-to-5, turn up the bass when young thug earthquakes at a red light, then wave goodbye outside your window when the light turns green, teasing men to chase your taillights. I want to write a poem for the women who let their hair grow like an untamed lawn in a wealthy neighborhood, who still wear a white tank top and a mini skirt, flaunting bladed grass on pits and legs dewy by dawn. Show off the beauty in your golden hour shadow, the rose bush of eyebrows you bloomed all year, a tall field guarding your labia from intruders. I want to write a poem for the women who don't show emotion, numb themselves blue, who have to run inside a bathroom stall to cry, the strong women loaning themselves a rock before landsliding apart. I want to write a poem for the rude woman scolding a drunk man that grabbed her friend at a bar, who cusses like it's her love language, does not apologize for the sake of peace. You are the hammer of every glass ceiling, the roar of women who did not make it home, a threat to small men turning to stone when they see a free woman. Thank you guys. I don't know why I want to cry.
Cry, girl, cry. We're in a safe space. You know, people are in the chat saying, they're saying amazing stuff. And I think I'm going to say, Astrid, you're in a safe space. I'm going to say that. And first and foremost, I want to say that I'm super proud and just so humbled by you sharing your journey, because it is true. It's not easy to share our journey because there's everyone at some point, nadie es perfecto. everyone has gone through some toxicity in their life. And that person that has not gone through any toxicity, whether it's relationship or not loving yourself, right? Like, let that person not raise their hand. Like, I want to see that person. Like, somebody say, I've never been through that. I'm perfect. I'm like, raise your hand. Nobody's going to raise their hand. So I think everyone in this room, I'm going to say in this chat room, the space, and I'm sure the folks on Facebook and the folks that are going to see this after, you're going to make people cry. And I'm sure right now, the only reason why I'm holding my tears back is because I, have to like continue. But
we're Capricorns, that's why.
and it's recording also.
No.
But one of the beautiful things about your poetry that I've always admired, and that it's so touching, is that discovery that you talk about, and just that self-love. And I connect, and this is something that I've told you in the past, right? I connect to your work so much because I had many, many dark years in my early 20s. Puchica, si no saben, yo ya estoy bien cuarentona aquí, la que no se ve. But no, seriously, it's like, I had some dark ages, and I'm sure many more can express the same. And it's just, thank you so much for sharing that. Your poem is so beautiful. I own it, and I think it's just amazing and just beautiful. It's so humbling. So thank you so much. Yeah, Ismenia right now is saying, who cusses like it's a love language? Because cussing, yes, it is a love language. It is. No estoy diciendo malas palabras, pero si me vieran, man, yo soy una malcriada.
Exactly.
But thank you again so much for that. Folks, make sure that you are folks, please make sure to check the chat, because they are sending y'all messages directly and commenting. Thank you so much for all the attendees and folks on Facebook as well, sharing this amazing stuff. Her book is Through the Soil in My Skin, and it is available to purchase on your website directly. And of course, you can always buy it on Amazon. Thank you so much once again. I always feel like I can continue talking with everyone. Like, me puedo tirar una hora con cada uno de ustedes, but we gotta continue. So, entonces vamos a seguir con la siguiente Charamusca. And, before I introduce this woman, I've never met esta cipota. I've never met her, and I haven't met many of you in person, but I feel like right now, through Zoom, we are all like connecting and just meeting each other. So Edyka Chilomé, before I read her bio, I mean, something really cool, right? I was reading her bio, and then she shared that her familia is from Morazán and not San Miguel. And I'm from San Miguel. My family's from San Miguel on my paternal side. Maternal side, they are from Morazán. So when we were sharing that, I was like, oh, like, puchica, like my family's from Morazán too, like my mom. And this is something, and that's why that post that I did yesterday on SWO, I shared it. It's because, like, as Salvadoreños, right? If you come from a very small country, whether you're not Salvi or not, we're always like, ¿y de qué parte sos, right? What part are you from? And it's a way of like, vamos a ver si somos primas o no, right? So it was really funny. And so now, right, Edyka, we're like trying to figure out if we are primas or not. So it's like more to come. That's a story that is still developing, because her and I were going back and forth with our primas, with my mom. Now I'm supposed to submit a picture. I feel like it's 23andMe. Edyka's like, hey, let me see a picture. Si en verdad, si, your great grandmother is my save. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like really hella funny, right? So we'll figure this out. But, let me, I mean, it's a really funny story, and I can't wait. Si somos primas, vamos a celebrar. And I'm either going to travel to Texas or te venís para acá, but we're celebrating, right? Or we're going to do a whole live about it. We're like, yeah, we didn't even need 23andMe. Somos primas. We just did it through freaking IG. But anyway, I told you I was a bayunca. But here we go. I am going to introduce this woman, Edyka Chilomé, which I love your last name. Puede ser artista, it's just beautiful. Is a queer child of migrant activists from occupied Lenca Morazán, El Salvador, as well as Zacatecas, Mexico, territories who raised her in the tradition of spiritual activism. She holds a BA in social and political philosophy and an MA in women's study. Internationally praised for her authentic and powerful voice of Edyka, has been asked to share her poetry and speak on multiple media platforms and in spaces around the country and Latin America, including TEDx, NPR, the Huffington Post, GLAAD, and many others. She is the author of El Poemario del Colibrí. I mean, hello, Saudi. The Hummingbird Poems. Currently lives in North Texas. To learn more about her, of course, you can find her on Instagram and her website, edykachilome.com. So, with further ado, te doy aquí la plataforma and I mean, let's bring it. Share it, mujer. Thank you.
Gracias, prima. I begin by admitting that this language is proof of my drifting, a testimony of my involuntary deviation and instinctual navigation. They have called me poeta, a charge, not a choice, a designation of spirit independent of any word written or spoken, because what is this language if not proof of my poverty, proof of separation, proof of displacement? What is this language if not proof of my courage, proof of resilience? Mala hierba, territorio salvaje, Chilomé. What am I but proof of a grueling encounter grown in the captivity of chaos, the magnificent and miraculous alchemy of survival? I have chosen liberation by way of its cartography, awakened by its intoxicating translations of life. These words weave what so many of our abuelas weaved with their hands and their mourning hearts. Historia, mapa, oración, canto, poema, testimonio, the way home. It is all I have at this point, and it is all I have come to know. Because what is this life but a whole ass love poem? And mine begins like this. I'm from immigrant dreams, born amidst war and faded stories of rape and guerrilla warfare, from instinctual survival, from creativity, cotton 22, or 15 children with no shoes who witnessed mommy getting beat in the other room, only to be told over and over again, this is where you come from. This is who you'll be. Villagers killed and teachers hung by US trained military. I'm gonna say that again, villagers killed and teachers hung by US trained military. See, we were trained to hold our tongues, to become field slaves who hung in the night for a new visionary. Believing freedom is still to come, we believe freedom is still to come, so we sleep and bathe in the stench of this American dream, only, so we sleep and bathe in the stench of this American dream. Only to be told over and over again. Ooh, all right. Oh, chica, vamos a regresar. Come back.
You got it, mama.
Oh, y'all got me. Good thanks. You're so safe.
It's all good. You're good. Take your time.
We believe freedom is still to come, so we sleep and bathe in the stench of this American dream, knowing that in reality, I come from the need to survive so that we may live, so that I may give and belong. If not to a family, then to a struggle and a song. If not to mi pueblo, then to mi prayers and these poems. See, I was raised in the memories of my people so that I may know them and I may remember that we come from border crossing, from crushing silence and the desperation of belonging, from broken hearts and minds, but fighting spirits, always fighting. En la lucha no hay de otra, si se puede seguir in this never-ending desire to be from something more than lost childhood dreams, to be something more than child who knew no tenderness in their seams, who cannot name their tears, who are without the privilege of living without fear. You see, I come from the need to survive so that we may live. Pero me dicen, oye, bicha, ¿quién tiene tiempo para justicia si tengo que limpiar esta casa y dar de comer a mi familia antes de ir a mi segundo trabajo? And they tell me, yo, E, who the fuck has time for justice anyway when all we have is just us and a payday? And I say true. But to answer your question, I have not found my home in a city or a place. Rather, I have found my seed sown and grown in the potential of this here space. So in the midst of it all you really need to know is that I was raised by hope, that the living would come alive, that we could do more than just survive, so I could sit here in my beautiful hamaca and tell you in your eyes que tú eres mi otro yo. You are my other me. So you better find your place in this struggle, because hipotes y cipotas, it's that time for us to be free. Yeah, man, feeling all the feels. Thank you so much for having me here. I have 3 more short poems. It's a beautiful Saturday morning aquí enfrente de mi puerta. You know, with my coconut water. O sea, it's not the coconut you're gonna get when you get to the airport at El Salvador, but like, it's gonna have to do. Cause that's from woes. We here. And I'm feeling beautiful in the midst of this testimonio from our younger sister, Astrid. Felicidades, Astrid, for your beautiful testimony that's now birthed in the world. It's an amazing feeling to allow ourselves to move into that vulnerability. So I give thanks for Cynthia, who is here, encouraging this space for us to come together and witness each other. I had a moment in the middle of that poem, really feeling that poem was written for us, for me, for you, for all of us. These tears that we shed are for all of us. And this is the gift that poetry gives us, to be that bridge for us to come closer to ourselves and to each other. So I give thanks. Okay. Okay, el que sigue. So I'm a DC Salvi. I feel like a lot of y'all are Cali Salvis, LA Salvis. That's cool, I guess. We're not gonna start the beef because it's about the unity.
Is it West Coast, East Coast beef right now? Because
no. It's East Coast, West Coast. We in all of these tierras. We all
because if we're doing it. Sorry, I have my sunglasses on, y'all. I lost my real glasses. I'm not trying to be Hollywood on y'all, but
came through with the LA Salvi with the glasses.
I just had to West Side on you really quick. No, I love you so much.
I was
Like,
like,
calm down, Tupac. Mira esta.
se ve bien perra, mi amiga. Así se hace.
Llegué bien Hollywood. No, I lost my regular glasses, so the only prescription glasses I have are sunglasses, y'all. I love you. Bye.
Because you live in that LA Salvi life. Yes, you can.
But I love you so much and your DC heart.
Thank you. I love you too, girl. You already know it's all love. We're not gonna do the East Coast, West Coast thing. There's already too much division. But we are gonna say that all of those experiences are valid experiences in our diaspora in all of its diversity and all of its beauty. So this is my poem called Columbia Heights, El Salvador. And Columbia Heights is a very notorious neighborhood in Northwest. In DC, where a lot of us migrated in the 80s. And it is, the woes of that neighborhood and the culture and the history of those streets are going through the same thing that, LA is, and all of our communities that are being displaced constantly. So we have diverse experiences, and in many ways, the experiences are the same, right? So here goes. Columbia Heights, El Salvador. Water begins to fall from an artificially lit sky, charged in blood and war, displaced memories and cheap labor. The hum of a pulsing city quiets. We listen for each other's heartbeats through the smoke. My brother, the casualty of war, debt he did not choose, hecho de machismo, nacido en cosecha de monte, East Coast boom bap, jealous aspirations, gringo masculinity, co-debtor, co-collector. He passes me the blunt. We watch the land warlords pass, unexpected and threatening. We glance at each other in mourning. We have spent our whole lives saying goodbye. So that's that piece. I do want to say that one of the things I really wanted to get on here and say, I know we have limited time, but I don't know, because maybe one of the poets are not coming, but I don't want to take up more time than I'm supposed to. But I do want to say that one of the things I often feel like we don't talk enough about within our diaspora is the ways that many of us can be displaced by the violence of machismo, by the violence of patriarchy that has plagued our families. And our beings from before the war, but especially during the war, especially right after the war, and even to now. So one of my testimonies of my bittersweet Salvi identity is that like my father's side is predatory, is violent, is extremely, just not healthy for me to be around. And so what does it mean for us to be connected to our gente and our people when we are displaced constantly by that violence? And I know my queer family understands that. And one of the beautiful liberating tools that we offer as the queer community in the Salvadoran diaspora is that we know how to remake home. We know how to remake family. We know how to remake community. And this is us being together right now is a testimony of and proof of concept of that. And so I give thanks for my queerness almost every day because it has allowed me to heal and be free and to dare to exist outside of what was expected for me. And as a femme, as a woman who has survived this war, as a woman who remembers her Lenca traditions, her abuelas who were not romantically taken away on horseback by a man, but were brutally kidnapped and raped and displaced from their families. Let's not romanticize the reality, even when they say it out of their own mouths, because they have convinced themselves that that is a normal part of life. As a queer mujer, I'm like, no. As an indigenous mestiza queer mujer, I'm like, hell no. I'm not gonna continue to be displaced from my root, from my connection to the sacred, to all the things that for me, give me life force to continue on for my future generations. So give thanks for us who continue to fight for life. Like Dalton says, you know, we are here and we are queer. And we are Sabi. All right. And then I'm gonna close with two very short ones that are also prayers, because you know we also queer and sacred, so you know what I'm saying, we gotta hit you with the, like Adán did, offering our prayers constantly. So this first one is called Si Me Desaparecen. Remember, we will find home again. It will exist in the depths of compassion again, in the euphoria of love. We will build it with courage again and again. We will rest in the roots of our intentions if we dare survive this ongoing war. We must remember to choose love again and again and again. Remember and come. We will be victorious. We will be the new covenant of the earth, wind harvest of tears and seeds, rain washing shame with mercy, fire inviting the promise of death, new life, come and become victorious. That's the English version of the way it's supposed to be read. It's called Ven Seremos. Seremos el nuevo pacto de la tierra, viento que cosecha llanto y semilla, lluvia que lava la pena con misericordia, fuego que invita la promesa de la muerte, nueva vida. Ven, seremos. Dios nos bendiga. Gracias.
Oh my God, thank you so much for that. I think almost everyone was crying on the verge of tears and so forth. And again, like I have to say that all of you sharing your deepest sentiments de su corazón, que está, you everyone's putting their heart out on this Saturday morning. You know, I know Adán is over there, it's Saturday night. But everyone, it's like beautiful, and the energy, you know, I don't know how you're going to take this, Edyka, when I say this, but hearing you, this is the first time I actually hear you live, right? And I'm going to say you gave me these vibes, the Lauryn Hill, like that soulful voice, and I'm like, oh my God, we have our own Salvadorian Lauryn Hill, y'all. Like, if y'all didn't know, like, here it is, you know. I mean, I'm sure if it's a yay, like, let's see in the chat, but I'm saying, like, I was listening to you and I was like, esa melodía, when I was talking about everybody has their own son, their own canto, right? And then here you are, and it's so melodic, just the way how you just flow, you know. And that was Lauryn Hill. Lauryn Hill didn't need like musical instruments. She was an instrument herself. And this is what I'm hearing you, and you're flowing. I'm just like, you know, and then the pause, like everything, it's just beautiful. And thank you so much. And I want to give like shout outs to the men who are sharing in the chat group and talking about toxic masculinity and saying, you know, we as men, there was a comment that said, we as men, we need to hear you, you know. And yes, like, men, thank you so much for sharing that and being humble, you know, because there's a lot that we need to dismantle in our own community, like you were just mentioning, Edyka, right now. And los hombres tienen ese poder, right, to raise better men in the future. Because we need to, for all this, el patriarca, todo lo que ha pasado con nuestros padres and los abuelos, and we need to break that down, you know. And as queer children, as you were mentioning, you know, we make our own families, because a lot of us, we've lost family, right? So this is why the term comes into place, chosen fam, right? Because this is your chosen fam that you decided to just create it because nobody else was there for you, because you were kicked out or whatever it was, you were disowned, right? There's women that I know, some of my friends who are coming out, they're like 40, so, and they're being disowned. And it's like, what? They're like 40, you know, but a lot of you can feel me and understand this. So yes, chosen fam is vital, like Astrid just said. And thank you so much again. Like I am so like, when all this is done today, I know toda la Mara, you're going to resume to your Saturday activities. You know, Yesika's going to go and look for her glasses and whatnot. Right now, she's looking like an OG. But I'm saying, like, you will be leaving today, logging off and feeling inspired. And if you've never written poetry, I hope that for today, y'all write something, because todos tenemos ese don. So, Edyka, prima, right? I'm just going to be like, prima. I think I'm gonna talk to my mom and be like, necesito la foto de mi abuelita, because I'm sure we're primas, you know, from Morazan, I'm sure, right? We gotta connect with that Machado. If there's any other Machados in this chat group, I'm just saying we might be primas. I don't know. But thank you so much for your beautiful energy. Thank you so much. Again, everyone, please do follow edykachilome.com. She's also on social media. I know Citralik and Marissa, my teammates, are sharing the bios and handles for all the poets, so make sure to follow them. And we're going to continue with our next Charamusca. Edyka, abrazos y seguimos en contacto, prima. Vamos a seguir con la siguiente Charamusca. Vamos a ver. Oh my God, hold on. Where is my? Okay, la siguiente Charamusca. And I mean, listen, this next Charamusca doesn't need much of an introduction, porque muchas personas ya conocen quién es Yesika Salgado, right? And like, if you didn't know who she was, es la mujer que está ahorita, you know, ahí dándole alabanza a Tupac with her Tupac West Coast, you know, packing y toda la onda right now.
That meme is like, when I wear my sunglasses like this, my hood supports me, but when I wear them like that, my hood turns. That's how I feel right now. Like, I showed up with my sunglasses.
Girl, you're good. Hood is here representing. Aquí Hood is here supporting you. Community, right? Like Edyka was saying. So I am going to continue sharing about Yesika right now, her bio. If you haven't heard about Yesika Salgado, she is a LA-based Salvadorian poet who writes about her familia, her culture, her city, and her fat, brown, beautiful body. She is a two-time National Poetry Slam finalist and the recipient of the 2020 International Latino Book Award in Poetry. Her work has been featured in the LA Times, New York Times, Teen Vogue, Univision, and many other platforms. Salgado is the author of the bestsellers Corazón, Tesoro, and Hermosa. For more info, of course, you can definitely follow her, Yesika Star, on all social media platforms, and visit her on her website, yesikasalgado.com. So again, Yesika, thank you so much for joining us, y te dejo para que nos des el encanto de tu poesía.
Eso, mamona. I love you.
I love you too. And the universe has a way to humble you, right? Like, I remember last night I came home early. I'm like, oh, I have something early. This is usually the time I wake up. And I'm like, I'm gonna do my hair, I'm gonna do my makeup, I'm gonna look like a bad bitch on this live. And then I woke up and I was just like, where are my glasses? I had them when I was smoking last night. You know, whatever, but we'll see where they are. Stay tuned. But that being said, it's an honor to be here. Adán, I had never heard of you before, and I truly enjoyed listening to your poems. Edyka, Astrid, Jose, I love you. Y'all know that, but I wanted to say that publicly. And Sin, I'm so happy to finally be able to be part of something with Salvi to Lunch. We've missed our like ships in the night, and so I'm glad that this is my first event with you that has so much of my family, but also there's so much diaspora. And growing up, y'all, I didn't even know one poet that was Salvadoran. And the fact that now we could do shows where there's entire lineups of us makes my heart so happy. I used to wish I was Mexican, y'all. Like, not that there's anything wrong with being Mexican, but they had a community, and like I didn't know where our community was, like a Salvadoran American community, right? Because everything was like my relatives and older people, they didn't get the other parts of me. So it's really beautiful that now collectively we're creating a visibility for the generation after us. Like my niece Saya, who's 9 years old, is never not gonna know Salvadoran literature, so that she could relate to, because Roque Dalton is amazing, but if you're new to poetry, his writing feels a million years away, right? And he's a man. And so now that she's a young girl, and if she's queer, I have a plethora of poets to point her towards. And so far she's identified as a woman, and there's so many of us. So anyway, I love you all so much. I'm gonna start doing my poems. I have 10 minutes worth of poems for you, and I'm going to get through them. I was trying to, I had a set ready, and then I was trying to like have lighthearted poems in there because I just wanted to, I don't know what I was trying to do, but both Edyka and Astrid invited me to like lean into what was already happening with your work. So we're just going to go in. I'm going to start with Diaspora Writes to Her New Home. And this poem is really special. And when I say that this poem was featured in the New York Times, it's not for me to brag, but it's for me to tell you, y'all, they're looking for our stories and they want to share them on the biggest platforms possible. And it's so exciting knowing that maybe I was the first one, but there's going to be so many more of us. So I can't wait to see all of our poems in the LA Times, New York Times, the New York, like all of these places. Anyway, here we go. I am what comes after the Civil War, after the dismembered corpses, the burnt sugarcane fields, the mango tree strung with a single hanging body, the man with his tongue in his pocket, the soldiers in the guerrilla, the exodus of my grandmother's children. I arrived here after the fleeing, after the bruise was named a desert, after the new country extended its concrete arms with reproach, after living in garages, huddling in small apartments, after raising blonde children who do not know our language, after washing cars we do not drive, after keeping home for women with alabaster skin, after falling in love in the time of asylum, after the alcohol took to my father's veins, after the family murmured his sins, after my mother cut the long coil of her curls. I found my way here and I stayed. A fist of a girl with eyes big as a wailing mouth. I was born with a pen under my tongue. I know and own all words ever spoken. I am the dream and the nightmare. The burning bush, Moses, David, Goliath, the Virgin Mary, Mary Magdalene, the Holy Virgin, God Himself, dead and resurrected. I am not the survival I came after. I am the victory, a boastful flag. I am not a promise. I am a threat. I am what takes and does not give back, a forked history, a new tongue, a priestess, church and communion, a woman with her own legacy. Take this, my story, eat it, and remember me. This next poem is called Excuses. And here we go. Also, just trigger warning, some of this stuff is a little heavy, and if you need to like put me on mute for a second for your own mental health, I completely understand. Your health is more important to me than my poems. So just take care of yourselves on that end of the screen, however it is that you feel fit. My father's father killed himself, and my father was only a child when he found him hanging from a mango tree. My great grandmother tried to love the death out of him, but he was a man, and well, you know how men are. He started drinking more and more. Than the Civil War struck El Salvador like lightning, and he was tortured by soldiers. He never told me, but I saw the scars, saw him crying to himself. I would ask what was wrong, and he would say, I didn't deserve to know. And this is manhood, isn't it? And being a woman is being an apology, right? Isn't it being the other cheek? My mother is a saint. She is rushing home at 6 o'clock because her husband needs dinner. She is tears over the sink and a tender goodnight. She is the girl three different men tried to push themselves onto, but they couldn't help but want to take, didn't need to ask because her beauty was all the yes they needed. And my father was one of these men. He took her to a hotel room, told her, "You are not leaving here without being mine." And then she was his because she figured it was time she belonged to a man. And 9 months later, there I was, and I am hers. Didn't it all work out? All right. And this is a poem, trying to make a call. You know what? I'm going to go with this one. This is a poem that I wrote for my abuela, for my mamita. She never liked us calling her abuela. We called her mamita, mi mamita Toña, en paz descanse. But I wrote this while she was still alive, and I'm glad that I did because things change when we write with grief, and I think that we honor people differently when we honor them alive and then when we honor them in grief, and both are valid. But it's really interesting to see the difference. But it's called In Our Family. In our family, the husbands die on you early. And old age is spent in churches or with daughters raising children you are too tired to love properly. You get phone calls on weekends, letters only the first Saturday of the month, visits yearly. Everyone comes with their noise and suitcases. Their English sounds as if they were speaking from beneath the ocean. Your children, your grandchildren, forget their Spanish. They speak it gargled and backwards. They hate the insects, the sun, the food. They complain of boredom. They claim all the hammocks. They almost kill the dogs and chickens from the fright of the fireworks. They lose your good pots down by the river, spread themselves all over your compound. They put out the candles on your altar, and they hide your statue of the Virgencita in their bed sheets, refuse to pray the rosary with you, and are surprised when you come after them with a fly swatter, when you ask your daughter not to bring them next time. In our family, the word grandmother is holy and never said in vain. She is spoken of in reverence, and the younger generations question her as if she were theology. Calling cards become tickets to confessionals, and all the children and their children dial the long numbers to hear her voice unfold itself like dusty Polaroids kept wrapped in warm handkerchiefs, yellowed reminders of where you come from, of where you've been, of who you are. In our family, grandmothers are God. You come to them with hands extended, thankful, and in awe. They survive it all, become the only constant, the compass of our entire tribe. The men, they die early, but God sweeps up her porch, coils the long braid of her hair into a knot at the nape of her neck, stretches her arms wide when everyone comes home one more time. And okay, aquí vamos. So this last poem that I'm going to share with y'all is, I'll share it with you. And I think I wrote this poem. People always ask me like why I wrote it the way I did, and why it's talking about surviving yourself, and why I wrote it the way that I did. And then I'm like, I feel like that's my Salvadoran heart showing up in my work. And this is the thing that I'm going to tell everybody watching. Being a Salvadoran poet or writing Salvadoran poetry doesn't mean you have to mention El Salvador every single time you write. And this isn't to say that it's wrong if you do so, but anything that you write as a Salvadoran becomes a Salvadoran poem. So you could be writing about your Nikes and it's a Salvadoran poem because our culture, your your family, everything, your upbringing shows up in everything that you write. I remember earlier in my career, I got invited to like a Latina event. And at the time I was just like, I don't write any like Latina poetry because I felt that I had to be like super political and super like Spanglish and all these things that it's just not how I write and how I speak. And I told my mentor and she's like, Yesika, anything that you write is a Latina poem because you are a Latina. And I just want you all to just feel that if you feel like you have to validate your any of your identities within your work and you feel like you're doing them a disservice, you're not. They're showing up in your work in small ways. We get to bring all of the universes, the worlds that exist within our universe and our world. We get to bring all of these worlds into each poem and they get to coexist together and thrive. And then we get to show people what our diaspora looks like. And that is so much more than just the one thing and the one way. Like our cuisine is so delicious. We have more than just pupusas, you know? And I know that people watching today are gonna find out what charamuscas are. I call people my little charamuscas like when I'm like in a good mood and I go live on my I'm like, hi, my little charamuscas, and nobody ever knows what I'm talking about. So I think it's really beautiful that this is named that. And there's so much more to our culture than what we've been told it is. And so I invite you to make that, to add your story to this beautiful kaleidoscope, because even today you've heard so many different stories. And then the poet after me, Nalgona, is one of my beloved darlings, and even their story is very different. So okay, off my high horse, last poem. Thank you so much for having me. Despite me having my technical difficulties with my eyes, I've been having a good time. At my funeral, I want you to play Beady Beady Bum Bum, followed by Back That Ass Up, and I'm gonna edit this poem right now, followed by La Sonora Dinamita, followed by Anything by Juan Gabriel. At my funeral, I want you to eat all that you can. Please don't turn down my mother's cooking. She will be grieving and offer you platefuls. Say yes to each one. This will let her feel closer to me. At my funeral, please don't read any of my poems. I wrote those to stay alive. Let them rest, pack their bags, stretch their limbs, find new fingers. At my funeral, let the men make jokes. I have understood that machismo only allows them to be tender through laughter, and I want them soft and sweet during our final goodbye. At my funeral, thank the women, my mother, my tias, my sisters, my homegirls. They are holy. And what I am the saddest about leaving, at my funeral, let the babies run free. Kiss their heads, sneak pastries into their chubby hands, watch their faces flush with delight. At my funeral, find the little girls and let them try on my lipsticks, especially the red ones. Let them walk through the house, each mouth a rosebud just for me. At my funeral, don't feel obligated to cry. Dance if that's what your body asked for. Remember, mine felt most alive beneath strobe lights and loud music. At my funeral, I'll be dead, of course. And this will be a victory. Praise the sudden illness or accident that claimed me. Praise the hospital bed I exhaled in. Praise the doctors and nurses and prayers that try to keep me. Praise this heart of mine that couldn't anymore. Praise all these years that came, wrapped themselves around my legs and pulled me away. Praise my death because it did not come from my own hands or from a razor blade or from a pill. Instead, because it was my time, because my body or my God said, come home. And I collected all that I am and I walked through that door. At my funeral, please play a song that says I survived myself. Praise be such a sweet, sweet end. I love you. I love you. Astrid, I love you. Edyka, I love you. Cynthia, I love you. Adán, I love you. Nalgona, I love you. I love you. I love you. That I tell you that the last thing I told my father when he was alive was I love you. Well, the last thing I told him when he was on the respirator was it's okay to go. I love you. I texted you this morning about the TV show I owe you, about the TV show we both love. I love you. I texted you this afternoon about the email I owe you. I love you. I called you to tell you that I was running late. I love you. That I was leaving the room. I love you. That I bumped into you at the supermarket. I love you. That I thought of you at 3 p.m. I love you. 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 If there is anything you know for certain, every day, let it be that I love you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for all the poets that came before me and that will come after me, for opening your hearts the way that you did and inviting me and everybody else listening to do so. I love you. And then
Yesika,
Jose with
Yesika, thank you so much. I think, and I'm going to say this in a beautiful, positive way. I think you just took us on a beautiful emotional roller coaster. And that's because it's colorful, it's dark, it's colorful, it's dark, and then there's hope, right? Through all this, all these feelings and everything. It's just so beautiful and so poetic. When you were talking about, I come after the Civil War. I mean, all of us, right? We were either engendrados during the Civil War or we came after the Civil War. And I think that's super powerful. And to say that that is the foundation of many of us, right? It's like I'm a product of that Civil War and everybody else here. And I think that's super powerful to just reclaim that, right? Because when you hear Civil War and you were sharing about, la gente de que estaba colgado en el árbol de mango, those were the streets, así se miraban en ese tiempo durante la guerra civil. These were the stories that I heard from my grandmothers, from my parents, right? Cuando decidieron migrar para acá a Estados Unidos, this is all they saw, corpses hanging on the, rivers and las calles and todo eso. So I think it's very beautiful to set the foundation, and then how you just carry it on with like dreams and a nightmare. And then, yes, all these things are trauma, they're triggers and everything, but through it all, it's like beautiful, it's uplifting. I saw the chat and it was just like, woo, somebody was like, sheesh, aquí estoy llorando and everything. And I just want to say thank you so much, for being a part of this, for sharing this, for uplifting and empowering everybody else. Like you said, everybody that came before us, and you sharing about your sobrinita, right? And it's like now she has, all of us, a new community of poets, of role models, right? That no necesariamente son poetas, pero son everywhere in different fields, right?
we're
And now
everywhere now. Yeah. And
we're
I have a 4-year-old nephew who's only half Salvadoran. And then I'm always just like, we're gonna take over. Like we got everything your other side has too, but like we're gonna take over. But yeah, like it's really exciting to know that we are collectively, and I mean like the artists that are part of this, and then those watching too, and who will watch this, that collectively we're creating a world where we're so much more than just the Mara Salvatrucha, right? Like
right,
that that is, I mean, that's a whole other conversation, but that's kind of like the narrative that we've been held under in this country, either the Mara or the caravans right now, right? And so then and yes, those are very true and those are very real problems for us, pero we're so vibrant and
yes,
tan alegres and tan cachimbones, and my favorite word is terremotos. My dad used to call me and my sisters terremotos. And I'm like, I own mis tres terremotos. And that's what I feel that we do in this country, or just in existing in our diaspora, is like we come, we're the after, we're the survival. And I love to hear all of our stories, because I mean we're still in the process of surviving. We're only 1 generation, 2 generations over.
right.
Pero what Salvi's Who Lunch creates is so fucking
Oh,
beautiful, and like watching
thank
from a
you.
distance. I've never had the opportunity to tell you this así cara a cara, but like watching you from a distance creating this, like it feels like such a relief, because sometimes when you feel that you're the only Salvadoran in the spotlight, you're like, I can't be everybody. And the fact that you create events where you get to hold the multitudes of all of us is so beautiful. And so, yeah, and even people like me need that too. I need to know that I'm not alone in this and that I have my community. And so today I have my community. So yeah. Okay, I'm not chillona. Bye.
Thank you so much for those beautiful words, Yesika. Like I said before, we can continue chatting y todo eso. Mira, ahí está de chola, ya se puso, ahí está de marera la cipota, ya se puso.
Para que no me miren chillando.
I'm just kidding. Hey, it's all love. And like Yesika said, like we've all been seeing, we are all here. If you're on the Zoom, you're still staying. It's a strong, attendance. And then the folks on Facebook, thank you so much for tuning in, for sharing. And like este círculo que está ahorita, right, de poetas de nosotros aquí conversando, it's beautiful. And this is our community, right? No importa de dónde vengamos, this is a community and we're going to continue growing it. So we are going to announce the next Charamusca. And super excited. And like I was sharing about Soy Nalgona, spotlight you here. Are you spotlighted? Para toda la mara que te vea, spotlight for everyone. Can you? Yes, I think. Did it work? Huh? What's going on? Can you guys see? Okay, there you are. Okay. So I was like,
it was me. Se me perdió el internet. Dije, no mames que no pagué.
Are you your own background?
Ahí representando Soy Nalgona. I love it. Y aquí está este cipote, like all on brand, también con el color de Charamusca. If many of y'all, if you do not know the color of the Charamusca, like my favorite, one of my favorites is la de cebada. So it has that pinkish color that you see Jose here wearing on his shirt, and then Yesika with the background y todo eso, right? Have that little feel. And I just love it. I love that all of you are just like super celebratory of the name and the event and just community. And like I was mentioning from the beginning about Jose, we met a couple years ago, right? And I pitched this idea to you about a Charamusca poetry, and you were like, yes, girl, do it. And so here we are. Y vamos a cerrar con este última Charamusca. And a little bit about Jose is Jose Richard Aviles is a multimedia artist, urban planner, and social worker based out of LA. As a former organizer and a current artista, Aviles is interested in the intersections between space and justice, laughter and resistance, and the magic of the stage. Currently, Aviles is promoting their first published collection of poems called Semilla, and developing a new poetry EP, La Carta que Nunca Envié, un homenaje a Juan Gabriel and the countless lovers that are hidden in the lyrics, Lo que se ve, no se pregunta. A famous quote from Juan Gabriel, of course. For more info on Jose Richard Aviles, please follow him on Instagram or any other social platform as Soy Nalgona. And I'm gonna leave you to it so you can share your beautiful poetry. Oh, no jodas, se te fue el wifi, mira.
No, ¿pagaste el bill o no?
No, pues no. Aquí está este cipote. Oh, chica. Ahí, but the good thing is that se ve todo chulo. Okay, you're back.
You're back.
Okay,
right.
let's go in. Pues mire, antes que nada les voy a compartir para que sepan lo que es la charamusca, un poquito que dice así.
Mi papá me pegó ayer buscando charamusca, por buscar la charamusca, buscando charamusca, por Carlitos me
Grupo La Máquina. Cada vez que empezaba o que terminaba Hola El Salvador, siempre terminaban con Máquina. Bueno, my name is Jose Richard Aviles, conocido como La Nalgona, por puro desmadre, pero aquí estamos. Listen, I really love what Yesika mentioned about community, and I never considered myself a poet until 2 years ago when I stumbled upon Corazon and read Corazon, and I was like, wait, what is this? Salvadorian from LA? I'm all of those things. I literally remember telling someone being like, everything, and I was like, I need to be there. I was like, I found my pen sibling, and then so I will credit and le voy a echar la culpa a Yesika for inspiring me to be a poet. Y aquí llegamos, y aquí estamos. Very much so. I am half Mexican and half Salvadorian, and I grew up in a Salvadorian household.
I love these dramatic pauses.
He's on brand.
No jodas.
You're back. Dale, antes que se te vaya otra vez, mira. Dale.
Okay, this is the first one. It's an excerpt from my TED Talk. Y dice, casamiento, crema, sangre morena. These are the words that remind me of Sunday mornings at home. Those Sunday mornings when my dad would play music too loud for my eardrums. Aniceto Molina, La Cumbia Sampuesana, La Chanchona de Tito Mira. Now, the lyrics to these songs are ridiculous. I still don't know why there's a song dedicated to a beauty salon with 2 floors, or how we have a whole song dedicated to the love of pupusas. A mí me gustan de queso revueltas o de chicharrón. I may never understand the stories behind these songs, but I understood that they reminded my father of his home, El Salvador, my home, Mexico. El Salvador, South Central. There's something about talk y le entramos. Ay, no mames. I love the fact that this is what all day we were good and all of a sudden let's just go in. So one of my relationships with my father, so I don't necessarily, I've never been to El Salvador or having connected so much with the country outside of just being born in LA and growing up in El Salvador. But a lot of it comes from the fact that I think it's a relationship I have with my father and the machismo that comes in that. So I wrote this poem called Mala Hierba. He is not my son. I was emasculated from birth, a product of toxic masculinity, nací no deseado. My father had left my mother, and my stepfather constantly exclaimed, he is not my son. I was allowed to roam the streets free, así como te fuiste, te vienes. I never knew when I was in trouble. I only knew that I wasn't his. No me regañaban. That was my mother's job. He is not my son. Now I'm just Jose Richard, Nalgona, Desmadrosa, Guanaca, Charamusca. He now knows that I am the son that shows up, a mi manera, but I show up. He cried his heart when I left, yet he always exclaimed, he is not my son. Well, he is not my father. Mala hierba nunca muere, pero el corazón sí endurece. Ay, qué lindo. Bueno, ya, con esta, porque este evento se nos cayó el evento, pero parece que ahí se están moviendo, so we're good. Okay, so I think we're bomb. Les voy a dar 2 más. Este se llama...
Your internet looks really good now, so it's not choppy.
Okay, perfect, gracias. Este se llama Abrázame, porque les mando un abrazo. Las manos son la manifestación del alma. ¿Qué tan cerca te tengo de mí? Quiere decir qué tan cerca te quiero en mi alma. Abrázame. Hay un momento muy mágico que pasa cuando el cuerpo suspira, se relaja y se abraza a sí mismo. Abrázame. A veces no sé decir mucho de lo que siento, entonces te abrazo más fuerte, un poco más profundo. Abrázame. Junto a ti mi corazón se aterriza, mis dedos crecen raíces y el pelo de mi piel vuela como si abrazara el cielo. Abrázame, abrázame muy fuerte. Ok, con este me despido, que se llama Torogós. Y dice, y Torogós, si saben, es el pájaro nacional del Salvador. I am half pupusa, half taco, with an emphasis on no sean malpensados. El Salvador is a country I've never known. El Salvador is a country that lives more in my veins than it does in my gender expression. Like the torogos, I take flight without looking, but when I've flown too high and I've flown too far, I instinctively fly back to where I nest, your heart. See, I will never know the smells of El Salvador, nunca conoceré sus olores, pero conoceré el sabor del queso al escurrirse de la pupusa. Nunca conoceré sus bosques, siempre conoceré pan con chumpipe y dónde nos quedamos. Pero siempre conoceré pan con chumpipes, panes rellenos en la Navidad. Nunca conoceré su patria, pero siempre conoceré el sombrero azul, tiñado de sangre con estrellas que iluminan. Nunca conoceré su música, pero siempre conoceré el güiro, los hermanos Flores, la Sonora Dinamita, Aniceto Molina. Después de esto, pónganse mi país de los hermanos Flores. Nunca conoceré cómo sentarme, pero sí entiendo. No sabré cómo ver, pero sí entiendo. Mirá, vení, dichito, cipote. No conoceré su tierra, pero siempre conoceré su honor. No conoceré el pulgarcito de América because only yesterday I discovered that pulgar was thumb. I never knew that El Salvador looked like a thumb. I'm always perplexed by my ability to code, which is sentate or siéntate. I never knew when to shut up because I had to decipher between cállate y cállate. I knew two bitches, hijo de puta and jue la gran puta. And if my mom was trying to be a católica, jue la gran puchica. El Salvador lives in my veins. I will always know the torogos, anchored yet free. Sentado aunque quiera volar. Y cuando vuele muy alto y cuando vuele muy lejos, si regresaré al nido, el Salvador que vive en mi corazón. Tan, tan. No, qué fuerte, se nos cayó el evento. Ay, no. No sé si lo entendieron, pero ahí está.
That was so beautiful. That was so, I was here like, woo! Like gritando como loca. And I'm sure everybody else was probably screaming in there. The whole thing of like, I'm half taco, half pupusa, y no sean malente. That line though, you should put that on a shirt, put it on stick, something. Ya, se quedó ahí bien suspendido right there. Oh, hell no. We lost you. And I love that he stays like looking all like cool and shit. Like every it's like pose. I said, you got your back. So beautiful, like the poetry, the color in it, like everything. And I love the fact that you had the Charamusca song on deck.
Oh, you know, like, I had it saved at like 40 seconds cuando empieza because the beginning, no, a lot of the...
There it goes, pose. This is pose number 20 probably. Ahí está. I don't... You know, and that's beautiful that you actually wanted to share the Charamusca song. And you did, because I had in mind to do that. But then I was like, no, ¿qué tal si pongo la música and se jodió todo esto and then we're just not live anymore? You know, so that's not cool. I want to say thank you to everyone who shared today, everyone that joined us. Just so everybody knows, there was so many poets that did submit to participate. And I want to say that, listen, this is not the first poetry event that we're going to have. We are going to have more. And like Yesika said, right, like so many of us said today, I actually thought that I was the only Salvadorian, right? But what we discovered here today is that que hay bastantes, right? Escritores, there's so many of us in different fields, and we're going to continue just creating more events, whether online or in person. Hasta que se vaya esta maldita virus, we're going to continue doing online, you know, events. But just know that we want to make sure that we showcase a different amount of voices and artists and small businesses, because there's tons of small businesses out there que son salvadoreños, and we definitely want to continue empowering. Before we do close and end this event, I am so inspired that I will share one poem of my own work that it's been years, many moons ago. I did write and publish a book. And let me tell you, it was, I was inspired, and I'm going to say this, that many, I think all of us mentioned today, abuelitas. And Yesika, I believe she was the one that mentioned about honoring your abuelitas, right? And Edyka, you did say that as well in your poetry about honoring. When my grandmother passed away in 2009, I was lost because she was a second mother to me from my maternal side. And so the only way that I felt that I can honor her was by creating and publishing this book que se llama Suspendidos en el Tiempo. And it's stories, it's poems, all inspired by, like I said, like before, my family, of lo que ellos vieron durante la guerra and their suffering. So everything's it's a combination in this book. And so I'm going to share this one poem that it was inspired by the stories that I heard. I was born in El Salvador y mi mamá me trajo aquí a los Estados Unidos a cumplir un año. So she carried my little self throughout todo ese camino. And this song, it was inspired by la canción de los Guaraguao. If you do not know quiénes son los Guaraguaos, es un grupo venezolano. And their song, Las Casas de Cartón, was a song that was banned in El Salvador durante la guerra civil because it instilled, según, right? It was an inspiration to los guerrilleros. This poem is called Casa de Cartón. En casa de cartón, una niña está pidiendo perdón. Silbidos de un padre en cielos perdidos. Tiros de nadie. A lo lejos de una milla, soles van reflejando. Hambre en latas vacías. Es mejor dormir, desaparecer, para nunca más pedir. Llanto en voces roncas, ansiedad de criaturas, billetes de papel, seres pateados del paraíso por uniformes de un general. Bebederos en baldes de aguas agachadas, en páginas escondidas, yace sangrienta historia de un antaño no muy lejano. Cartones hechos casas, bolsas llenas de otros, sobre tierra que dibuja miserias. Oh, mi patria, El Salvador. So much for allowing me to share. I felt so inspired that I was hearing all this and I was just like, hold on, I want to share a little poem of mine too. Como dije, everyone pretty much knows me as, you know, the founder of SWL, but many, many moons ago, I did publish that book. And the goal now is to, you know what, continue and just uplifting everyone in our community and just growing. So once again, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in today. This video will be edited and will be obviously shortened out and it will be posted on all the social media channels. And of course, it's going to be on YouTube. So everyone that's at home, thank you to all los poetas que compartieron hoy. You guys have inspired me so much that who knows, maybe I need to start working on my second book. I mean, and like drop it because it's been already like already 13 years, you know? So thank you so much for that, for the love. Thank you for everyone that has been chatting and sending messages. I don't even know if I can save all those comments, but thank you, everyone. If there are any comments or questions, or if you would like to collaborate in the future and having an event together with SWL, please send me an email. Please send me a message. I'm always open to ideas and working with others. So again, gracias a todos por compartir su energía, por estar aquí, por compartir esos versos a todos los poetas y las lágrimas que son bendiciones, porque eso significa que estamos vivos. Gracias a todos ustedes and have a beautiful and amazing weekend. Nos vemos.